Yeah, hey, look, I know that you're ready to unlock it, all of your full potential. You know we bringing the powerful discussions. Yeah, I'm talking about Robyn's reflections, interviews from the coolest hosts. So just tune in, get a weekly dose, helping plenty women, giving good advice. Bring back that confidence in your life. Keep God first, we acknowledge that. But you got the power, it's time to harness that. Transform your life in a major way. Dr. Robyn Gobin, what's up today? Hey.
Everyone, so today we're going to talk about how to make mistakes well. And so this might sound like a weird topic, but let me tell you where it came from. So about a couple of weeks ago, I was in Denver at a meeting with some other people who I serve on a committee with, a committee of psychologists. And so we were talking about an event that happened where someone that we care deeply about got hurt by another person's actions on the committee. And so I just witnessed this person who basically was taking responsibility for their actions, who engaged in this transgression, mess up with so much grace and so much humility that it made me start to think about myself and how I handle messing up. And I think messing up is just a normal part of the human experience. We are all prone to making mistakes, to not getting it right, to hurting other people's feelings. And it's not that we intentionally do that, but sometimes when we're in relationships with other people, whether it's a romantic relationship, it's a family relationship, or if it's just a relationship with boss or colleagues, when you get close to people, you're more prone to hurt other people or get hurt yourself. And so it just made me kind of think about the times that I have messed up and whether I have handled it with as much grace and humility as I witnessed this other person kind of take responsibility for their actions with. And so that's where this idea came from. And so the first thing that it made me think about was why it's so hard for us to make mistakes, because I know when I make mistakes before, and believe me, I've had my fair share of mistakes. I make them every day. But so when I make them, it is hard to make them. It's hard on us. I think it's really hard on our sense of ourselves, because we have this view of ourselves as someone who, has the greatest intentions for other people. We don't look at ourselves as someone who wants to hurt other people or just who wants to make mistakes. We feel like we are competent, capable adults. And so we kind of hold ourselves to a standard where I just shouldn't be making, silly mistakes. And yet, there we find ourselves making mistakes. And so some of the reasons why I thought about that, it's hard for us to make mistakes is, first of all, it makes us feel very vulnerable. And so even though, I have the bumper sticker and we all, get on the bandwagon talking about how it's so great to be vulnerable, but that is much easier said than done. And so for me, as a recovering perfectionist, vulnerability can be really, really hard because when you're vulnerable, right, you are prone to getting judged by other people. When you make a mistake, that opens up the door for them to actually judge you and for you to be perceived as either ineffective or incompetent. And so a perfectionist's worst nightmare is to be judged, and especially to be judged negatively. And so it just is really, it kind of peels back those layers of the onion and basically exposes you. And that's a part of what makes making mistakes so hard, for me at least anyway. Another piece that I think comes to mind, and it might not be like on a conscious level, but maybe on more of a subconscious level, is that you don't want somebody to be able to blame you for something, right? So, we don't want to be the reason why something bad happened. We don't want to be able to put fault on ourselves, right? So whenever something bad happens, even you look at our society, we're always looking for somewhere else to point the blame. And so I think that's just kind of like a natural state of the human condition. And so it kind of throws us off guard when we look around in our environment and we try to figure out, okay, who can I blame for this? And it's like nobody, because It's actually your fault. So that's really, really hard. I think it's a blow to our ego. And I think a third reason why it's hard for us to make mistakes is just because it's frustrating, right? Like, I'm an adult, we Monday morning quarterback ourselves. We say, I should have known better than that. I should not have done that. I should have thought of that ahead of time. Why didn't I? And so we really are hard on ourselves, and it's hard to have compassion for yourself when you make a mistake that you perceive to be super, super frustrating and super simple, like a mistake that you should not have made. And so I had this happen to me recently. This is super embarrassing, but because I want to keep it real with you all, I will share. So about a couple of weeks ago, I was headed to a yoga class, and I was super excited to go to the yoga class, but I was running a little bit behind schedule, and I went out into our garage, and I ended up essentially like backing up into the garage door because I just was not paying attention. I was like flustered. I was trying to get out, and I just did not pay attention. I didn't realize that, I hadn't lit up the garage the right way. And so that is an example. That's like a simple example, but it's a mistake that I made, and it kind of touched on all of these reasons why I just talked about why it's so hard to make a mistake. It was so frustrating because it's like, okay, you have been driving for like over 10 years now. Like, you should be better than that. Like, there's no reason why you should have backed into the garage door. And there I was. And so, and it definitely, there was nobody else to blame. Like, there was not like someone else controlling the car, someone else controlling the door. It was all me. And, I had to like go in and, tell my husband like what happened. And, it was just very embarrassing. So, right. So that's what happens when we make mistakes. It's hard. It's embarrassing. It's frustrating. And you feel vulnerable. Like, you're standing out there, all your clothes off, and just being looked at in your raw state. And so a part of what, kind of going back to the whole Denver piece, what it made me think about is, well, why is it good for us to make mistakes anyway? Like, what benefit do we get from it? Because sometimes that really helps me to put things in perspective, is to try to look at like how can I have gratitude for this experience, or how can I look at it from a positive standpoint? And so some of the reasons why I think it's good for us to make mistakes is that it's a sign that, you're still growing, you're still learning. It humbles you, right? It reminds you that you still have so much more to grow with. You have so much more to learn. And I think sometimes even like in job contexts or in relationships, when we make mistakes, it just shows us that, we have not fully arrived yet. And that's not a bad thing. I think that, we should, in our lives, always be striving to become the best version of ourselves, to be better. And so when you make a mistake, it shows that you're still growing, you're still learning, you still have room for growth, and hopefully that you're still teachable. So it helps us to not get content with where we are in life and to just kind of sit back and feel like we got it all together, we know everything, because we don't. There's always room for improvement. So that's one of the upsides of why it's kind of good to make mistakes. Another one is that, and this is really real for me, is that it helps you to have more sympathy for other people when they mess up. So, that's just real, because a lot of times, working with students, I teach at a school, and sometimes, you tell them something one time, and then the next thing you turn around and they're emailing you like an hour later asking you the same thing that you just told them, and you're like, wait a minute, like, why are you asking me this? Didn't you hear me? But they just somehow they missed it, they messed up, they made a mistake, they didn't get it right, they didn't hear it right. And so that really helps me to kind of have sympathy for other people when they mess up, when they make mistakes, because again, we are all in this together. We're all human, and we're all prone to imperfection, and we have to embrace that. And so it just kind of helps me to be able to just extend mercy and grace to other people when they like don't get it right, when they mess up, when they may do things to hurt me or to offend me, and help me to kind of see that beneath the action, that really wasn't necessarily their intention, and to help to have you just more empathy for that experience when other people mess up. And then a third reason why I feel like it's good to make mistakes is it really does help you to connect with other people in a really genuine and authentic way. So they get to see that you're human, because a lot of times I think, especially when you're like in leadership roles or even like with your family, with your kids, sometimes people, if they don't see you every day, or if they don't, they haven't seen you mess up before, they kind of have this image or this mental kind of persona of you, if you will, that you have it all together and that you're just perfect, and that is the farthest from the truth for me. And so when you make mistakes around other people, and you're able to do that, it helps them to feel like, okay, like I can connect with this person because like we're all in this together. They make mistakes too. They're still growing. They're still learning. And it just opens up an opportunity for you to build a deeper connection with the other people in your lives. And I think I've noticed this, especially like in my marriage, when I've made mistakes and when I've been able to own up to those mistakes. It is like, okay, like we got through this. It was a rough patch. We talked about it. We got through it, and it made us stronger. And you feel like you kind of went through a valley together. And so it feels good. It feels more connected. And the person kind of gets to see you for who you are. And you know that that person accepts you for who you are, right? Because they've seen you at your worst when you're making a mistake, and they still want to be there for you, and they still accept you. And so that's a good feeling. And so now, getting to kind of back to Denver and what I learned from kind of witnessing this whole thing unfold, around kind of witnessing this leader really just gracefully recover from this mistake that was made, and really kind of demonstrate for me the type of humility that I want to have when I make mistakes. And so what I'm going to leave you with is kind of like my takeaways for how do we make mistakes well? Like, how can you recover from the mistakes that you make gracefully? And so this is really about, how do you make the mistake work for you? How do you let it grow you, make you a better person? And let it be worth it that you made the mistake, right? Like, nobody likes to make a mistake, but when it happens, we can't take it back. So let it be worth it, right? Like, don't just miss that opportunity, because I feel like there's so much for us to take away when we make mistakes. And if we just kind of brush it off and don't really capitalize on that opportunity, it is, in the end, we are really the ones that lose. So here are my 5 kind of takeaways for how to make a mistake well. So first is taking responsibility. And the huge hitter here is taking responsibility for the impact of your actions, not the intent, right? So this is more of an inside job. You, in and of yourself, really sitting down, coming to terms with the fact that you made this mistake, that no, it's not what you intended for it to be, but it happened, right? That you overlooked something, you made this mistake, it had this impact on the environment, it had this impact on these other people that you care about, and that's really what it is. And so just accepting it for what it is. So that's the part of taking responsibility. And again, taking responsibility for the impact, not the intent. So because a lot of times we try to let ourselves off the hook and we say, well, you shouldn't be that mad about that because that's not how I meant it. But it's not about how you meant it. It's about how it was received. And so the first part is really that inside job of, searching deep down inside yourself and being willing to take responsibility for the impact that your actions had. Then secondly is what you do on the outside, right? Secondly is apologizing. This is what you say, really apologizing, and apologizing specifically. So not just saying I'm sorry, but being very specific about what you are apologizing about. Like, what did you inside yourself, back to number 1, take responsibility for, and what are you apologizing for? And so the third way that you can make a mistake well is to be humble. So this goes more into how you apologize, how you say what you say. So not being dismissive, not saying, I'm sorry if you took it that way, not saying, I'm sorry you're so sensitive, or I'm sorry, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore, or not saying but, so leaving but out of it, not like, qualifying your apology with, some kind of defense that kind of takes you off of the hook or lets you off the hook. This is really about really taking responsibility fully and being humble, recognizing that you don't have it all together, that you messed up, you made a mistake, and that's just all it is. So taking that road of humbling yourself, recognizing that you have room for growth, and really apologizing in a sincere and genuine way. And what I found is when I've been able to do that, believe me, I don't always get it right, but when I am able to do that, it really does like help the other person who's been hurt by my actions or impacted by my actions. It helps them breathe a sigh of relief, because they really feel like their experience is being validated and their experience is being acknowledged by you humbling yourself enough to take responsibility and apologize. Okay, so the fourth thing, so we have take responsibility first, apologize is my second takeaway. My third takeaway is be humble. The fourth one is offer some type of reparations. And so really what this is engage in some kind of behavior that really shows that you're sorry, that you're trying to make amends, and that you're trying to kind of help the situation be better for the next time. So this can take a variety of different forms, but it's really about not just saying that you're sorry, but behaving in a manner that says, I'm sorry. So whether that is, I don't know, like giving the person a hug, whether that's like if you messed up in some way and someone missed out financially, maybe it's, sacrificing and giving them the money that you caused them to lose, or whatever the situation is. But it's behaviorally like showing that I'm really sorry, that I apologize, and I want to mend the relationship, I want to make things better. Maybe it's the next time that you don't do that thing again. That is a way of behaviorally making amends and making reparations. So it's about behaving in a way that really shows the sincerity of your heart, and showing that, okay, I understand that I messed up here, but I want to get it right next time, and I am going to get it right next time, and I'm going to be better. So this is letting your actions speak louder than your words. And then my fifth and final takeaway is finding the lesson in the mess up. So when you mess up, when you make mistakes, what is the lesson that you're taking away from that? Like, again, like I said earlier, don't let it be for nothing that you made a mistake, right? Like, it's always inconvenient. It's frustrating. Sometimes it's embarrassing when we make a mistake. Don't let that be for nothing. Like, capitalize on that. So when you make a mistake, find the lesson in it and use the lesson for next time. So don't just say like, I messed up and I said I'm sorry and now let's just move on, but really kind of think about like, what can I take away from this, and how can I let this mistake make me a better person? How can I adjust my behavior in the future to make me a better person and make it less likely that I will make this mistake again? Because what I find is sometimes we are just so embarrassed and so ashamed that we made a mistake that we just want to like crawl under a rock somewhere and basically like never come out again. And that's understandable, because again, like, people have maybe seen you at your worst, you've kind of behaved in a way that's less than the expectations that you have for yourself. And so it is like a natural thing to want to just like hide and just want to kind of get past it. But if you stay there just a little bit longer and you challenge yourself to look at the situation and say, okay, what can I do to really learn from this to make me a better person? What is the lesson that I can take away from this situation that is really going to benefit you, and it's going to make it so that you really are learning and you really are growing and you position yourself to be better in the future? So going back to my debacle with the whole garage and the car, like, the lesson that I took away from that and that I learned is that I have to be more timely. I can't be rushing off to go somewhere and and just not really paying attention, because that's the other piece too, is that I really wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. I was trying to do too much all at once, and trying to hurry off, and I just wasn't being in the present moment. I wasn't being mindful, and that's what led to me making the mistake that I made. And so that's the lesson that I was able to take away, is that I need to allow myself more time when I'm going places, and that when I'm, getting ready to pull out of the garage, I need to kind of be fully present. I don't need to have my mind all the way in the future or thinking about something that happened yesterday that I regret. It needs to be right here in the present moment. And so that is my challenge to you, is the next time that you make a mistake, think about, what is the lesson that I can take away from this, and how can I use this mistake to make me a better person? So just a quick recap here. How do we mess up well? How do we mess up with grace? And how do we recover from a mess up with grace? First, we take responsibility. Second, we apologize. This is all about what you say. Thirdly, you humble yourself. So this is more about how you say it and the demeanor, the attitude that you bring to your apology. Then fourth is offering reparations. This is what behaviors can you show, display, that really kind of express in as genuine as a way possible that you are sorry and that you want to kind of make up for the wrong that you did, the harm that you caused, if there was any harm to anyone by your mistake. And then fifthly, find the lesson in the mistake and use it in the future. Commit to using that. Commit to letting this mistake not be in vain, letting it be something that grows you and makes you better. All right. So I hope that this has been beneficial for you. I know that it's something that can apply to all of us. Like I said at the beginning, we are all human. We all have made mistakes in the past, whether it's in a relationship, on a job, with our family. And so we are all prone to make mistakes again in the future. So it's going to happen. And so I love to continue the conversation and hear more about from you, like, what is the hardest part for you with regard to making mistakes, and what has been challenging for you? Because I want this conversation to keep going, because it's a part of the human condition. We will make mistakes, we will mess up, but we can salvage it and we can make those mistakes work for us. So let's encourage each other. So definitely leave me a comment, follow me on social media at Dr. Robyn Gobin, and drop me a line, drop me a private message, and let me know how this is landing with you, and also any other topics that you want to hear me talk about. All right. I hope that this leaves you feeling hopeful about the next time that you make a mistake. All right. I'll be in touch soon. Talk to you later.